Have you ever seen a cactus dance? Well, no, neither have I, but that's what we're going to make today. Dancing cactus jewelry using supplies from the Succulent CreateAlong Box. Hi there, Sandy Huntress here for CreateAlong. So this project starts with scraps of polymer clay. Most of my projects start with scraps, actually. I keep them all sorted by color. And you don't even have to make your succulents, your pieces green. I just decided to, but you can make them any color you want. The most important thing to keep them interesting is to not use just one solid color, but a blend of colors. And I like to go in and find something a little dark, maybe even darker than that, and something bright. I love this wasabi. And I'll just pull off what looks like nothing. Little pieces of all different shades. So here's some yellow green. I know this one's going to be very crumbly, but maybe a little bit of this blue green. I'm going to dig around in here. I just went digging through that whole thing, trying to find something dark, which I don't have much. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Here's kind of a, well, that's kind of a dark gray. I don't want too much of that, but it is nice to have a contrast. And like, here's a nice kind of bright color. And it doesn't matter in the least to me if some of these, those are kind of cool, have glitter or mica or opal flakes in them. It doesn't matter. So we got a medium tone. Here's a more grass green. And now, just from those little bits of nothing, I have a ball of clay. I think I want a little bit more light in there. Oh, that's pretty, kind of a pistachio green. A little more light. I think once upon a time, and I guess they kind of still are, I had these separated into blue greens and yellow greens. Oh, here we go. A little bit more light. I might have a translucent in it. Doesn't matter. And by the time you get done adding bits and pieces, you will have lots more than you need. So now that we have our assortment of colors chosen, you can decide how you want to handle these depending on how well they are conditioned. Most of these already feel pretty soft. If you have hard ones, you might want to just take a minute and condition them individually, just so you don't overmix things. But these are all pretty soft. So I'm just going to mush them back together. Like I said, if you have hard ones, you can just run them through the pasta machine and stack them up. And then form them into a log. And I'm just doing that on my work surface, working them a little bit. This is how so many of my projects get started. And it gives them just a much more rich and interesting look to be consisted of many different shades. One thing that sometimes is helpful, kind of getting it under control, is just to use an acrylic block and kind of use it to mush them a little bit. I'm going to run this through my pasta machine once on the thickest setting. Mostly just to help get it under control. Soften it up just a tiny bit more. And I'm going to cut and stack. I think I'll do that one more time. Just trying to get all this clay moving. Once it starts moving, it's really easy. Sometimes this is the part that takes the longest time. One thing you can do is, as you're rolling your log, you can just kind of start squishing it back together and making it fatter, because we don't really want to roll it out long and thin. But this just helps move it. So roll it, and then there, now you can see that's moving nicely. So once it's moving for you, start giving it some twists. And boy, this looks terrible, doesn't it? It looks absolutely awful, but no worries, it will look really good. And the more you twist it, the thinner those stripes get. And that's pretty good. I don't want these ultra fine. Again, I'm going to use my acrylic block and flatten it just a little so that it can get through the pasta machine without wrecking my pasta machine. Even get it a little with my acrylic roller. So once you have it at a safe thickness to roll through your pasta machine, now we can start making a really pretty stripy sheet. So I'm going to roll this through on the thickest setting. I want all of these to be on the thickest setting because I don't want to make my earrings too thin. But you can do whatever thickness works for you. So take a look at both sides. If there's one that you like better than the other, if there's some stripes you prefer, then use that side. Fold it in half. Send it through again. And again, look and see what you like. Fold it in half. 2. Usually for me, the magic number is 3. And I am going to stop right there. Now I've got my stripy sheet, and this is the cactus cutter set that came in the Succulent Surprise box. And you have some decisions to make. First of all, which side, if there's one side you like better than the other, and then which direction. So you can have your stripes going up and down. You can have them going across. You can even have them going at a diagonal. Here are a few examples of how it looks. So this is a stripy sheet I made to about this point. So these are fairly thick, bold lines. This one, I rolled it a couple more times and it softened the lines. So they're not quite so bold and distinct. This one, I put it on the diagonal. And of course this one, these both won't go horizontal. This one I did a little bit differently. I thought I would try to make a pattern on it. I think for this scale, maybe it's a little busy, but you can certainly play with it. And that's just done with a needle tool. This will require you making a thinner sheet. Now you can do this in a more controlled way than I am and do a line and then do one in between each one, but I kind of like just doing some in one direction and some in the other. Then you roll it through the pasta machine until it's flattened and smooth, and this had to go down to about a number 4 setting, and you get these lines, and then you can cut out your cactus that way. What I'm going to do with this though is roll it through 1 or 2 more times and get some softer lines. Now there's a couple of tricks to using these cactus cutters. Once you have the area chosen that you want, you can press on it with your fingers, but it's hard to get good contact. So the best way is to just take your acrylic block and place it on top and press down. Give a little wiggle, kind of give a rub, and then you know you have good contact with the surface and you'll have a pretty clean cut. Although when you lift up these cutters, that's a decent cut. Doesn't that look cool from the stripes of scraps? However, there's an area that you can't see from the front. When you flip it over on the back, you can see that clay gets stuck in those little narrow areas between the arms of the cactus. So just make sure you clean that out, because if you keep cutting with the clay in there, it will just build up and make kind of a mess. So with any cutter that you use, it has a little thickness because it's a tool. It has to have some dimension no matter how thin it's made. So you'll just want to come in, and I like to use my finger and ever so gently smooth out those areas. You can use a tool and get in there and just make as nice a finish as you can possibly get on your piece. Now I promised you dancing cacti, right? Well, this is so simple. All you do is when you put it down, you just spread out the arms a little bit, pick a direction, and kind of lean the top and the bottom that way. You can even curve those a little if you want. And voila, you have a dancing cactus. Isn't that the cutest thing? So much more fun than this one. What are some more details you can add to your cute little cacti? Well, you can add a texture. This triangulation texture sheet that came in the Succulent surprise box actually adds a pretty nice subtle texture. I added it on these just by pressing it down with my fingers, and it gave just a subtle, like I said, a subtle texture that is a little spiky, so it kind of makes you think of the thorns of a cactus. I also added cute little flowers. Don't we love those cactus when they bloom, those blooming cactus? And these are 6mm check glass flowers. And all you need to do is slide one onto a ball head pin. Trim that wire down. You can use the short head pins if you have them. Like 1 inch would be plenty, because we're going to trim this to about 3/8 of an inch. Use round nose pliers to make a loop. Just a small little loop. Then you can push this into your cactus wherever you want. You might want to add a little bit of liquid clay just to make sure it's in there well. If you want a flower with a little more presence, you can add a little 2mm pearl, and that just makes it taller. If you add a texture, of course, you can add some of the mineral mica, which is what I did on this one, just to give it a sparkle and make it very festive. But another thing you'll see I did here was I added some strings of party lights. You can do that using the mini macrame cord that came in the Succulent Surprise Kit and just some seed beads. I had some kind of wonky seed beads that I will never use in a bead weaving project, so I strung a few of those on the macrame cord. Now, the order in which you do this is important. First of all, you add your flour before you bake so that it can be embedded in there. Also, before you add your lights, you want to cut out your backing. I cut this one out after I added the lights, and it really was not the smartest thing I've ever done. It was kind of a pain, not impossible. So here's some of my backing that I rolled through the pasta machine with the triangulation texture sheet, just to give it some texture. I'm not going to add liquid clay just yet. I'm just going to press this on here and use a craft knife to cut out my shape. This is so much easier without that cotton cord in the way. So the flour goes on before you bake. The backing gets cut out before you add the party lights. The party lights get added after you bake. Now we'll just set this backing aside for a moment. Just peel it off gently. Set it aside. And what you'll want to help save your sanity on this is a little bit of super glue. So you just add a dab of super glue. And it's not a bad idea to kind of pre-plan where you want this cord to be. So before you even slide down any beads, no, stick to that, not me. Not me. There we go. You can just kind of do your wrapping. Or maybe we'll do that. That's fun. Get an idea. Oh, that's cute. So you have an idea. So probably 2 beads in that first section. A great tool for stringing your beads on this cord, because it's kind of thick. So you need to make sure, first of all, that you have beads with big enough holes. I believe these are all 10-0 seed beads. But something like this, it's called a big eye needle. And it's wonderful for things that are thicker and difficult to thread into a regular needle, because it's just all an eye. It's basically 2 wires welded at each end. So just put your cotton cord on there, slide your beads on. I've left the needle on just in case I want to add some more beads as I'm going. So I'll just put, let's see, what was it, 2 on this side. And then I can go back, maybe add another dab of super glue on the back if the cord isn't staying where I want it. Maybe 3 beads here. to here. Isn't that just so fun and festive? And I would just add dabs of super glue in the back as I'm doing this. Trim off my cord, and now I can put it on here. Of course, use some liquid clay to glue the baked clay to the raw clay. And that is what I've done here. Take your time on these back edges. I still have some more neatening to do. Now this one I had rolled through the pasta machine to get the texture on the front. So it was kind of thin and my little flower was not staying in place. So if you find that's the case, you can just take a little ball of your clay, kind of stick it right in that wire loop. Add your liquid clay, dab in a little bit more liquid clay, and then press that in place so that it will stay. And then a final step is if you're going to be making jewelry, what you'll want to do is take an eye pin. So we had the ball head pins, but in this case, just take one that has a loop on it and do the exact same thing we did. Trim it to 3/8, use round nose pliers to make a loop. So you have a little unit like this. Then what you can do, of course we'll have, I haven't finished this, but just to show you, we'll have liquid clay all over the back of this. And then also that will be sandwiched in there between that and the backing. And of course you'll take your time and make it tidy. Smooth out those edges and all that. Add jewelry findings, and then you have the most adorable Dancing Cactus jewelry. I can't wait to see your versions of this project. Once again, this is Sandy Huntress for CreateAlong, wishing you happy creating.